But thanks again for attending the EidosMedia Leveraging ONTAP Cloud for AWS to serve millions of users globally with 24/7 access to data webinar. My name is Isaiah Weiner, and I'm a Senior Manager of Solutions Architecture in AWS in the partner organization. I will be your host and moderator for today's webinar, and I am joined by Yaron Heimson, who's a Manager of Solutions Architecture at NetApp, and Lorenzo Donina, who's a Cloud Architect at EidosMedia. I'm going to fly through our intro here. I want to give us extra time to answer questions. We have a lot of folks who have joined, and we want to make the most of it. So when we talk about different ways that customers use storage on AWS, one of those use cases is primary storage, and you could say that other use cases are things like backup and recovery, archive, disaster recovery, that kind of thing. When we talk with customers, what our customers tell us is that when they are dealing with primary storage on premises, they're faced with traditional problems around lead time associated with ordering and receiving things, not necessarily being able to just turn things up. We hear from customers that they face physical compliance challenges, and oftentimes those are things that customers, frankly speaking, just don't want to have to manage. And that there's a cost component. So there's things like capital expenditure and not being able to have something that is cash later versus cash now means that it's more expensive. So we have building blocks to help with that. These are building blocks that both customers and partners use. Everybody knows about S3. Generally speaking, it's the oldest service in the AWS portfolio. It was our first service to be launched. And because of the semantics of S3, it's very simple, puts and gets with features built around those things. It has sort of become the Swiss Army knife of storage. So a lot of solutions utilize it. A lot of customer scripts, a lot of customer workflow utilize it, and you'll see a lot of AWS native services built around things like AWS S3. There's cheaper storage tiers like infrequent access, and then there's through things like lifecycle policy, migration of objects to services such as Amazon Glacier. The general rule of thumb, if it was on tape, Glacier is a great place for it. If it wasn't on tape, I don't recommend putting it there. So when people use things like EC2, they're already using the storage service Amazon EBS, which is a block service. EBS started out as effectively a boot service for EC2 and grew from there. But there are challenges with all of the AWS storage services, which is that they're building blocks. They're great building blocks, but they're not fully baked solutions. And if you have an on-premises investment in a solution such as NetApp did ONTAP, you might say, well, gosh, I've got all of this knowledge inside of my organization that I'd really love to be able to take advantage of. I'd like to be able to use things like SnapMirror to send my data up into the cloud. How can I do that? And then furthermore, how can I take advantage of all of the things that it's going to get me? So the things that it's going to get me are integration with other services. It's going to get me the ability to have a fully auditable solution for security purposes. I can set it up and I can forget about it, and when I run out of storage space or something like that, I can go provision more. And then lastly, I'm only going to pay for what I use, that utility computing model extending into the cloud with my primary storage solution. So enter the partner organization and APN partner ecosystem, and specifically inside of the storage landscape, there's a very short list of excellent storage solutions, and today we're going to hear about one of them. And everybody knows about NetApp. Everybody knows that they're a market leader. But what a lot of people don't know is that for the last several years, NetApp's made very heavy investments in extending their fantastic intellectual property into the cloud. And so, if you're one of those customers who maybe you could never afford the CapEx component of NetApp, you have a chance to take advantage of it now in an OpEx fashion. And if you are an existing customer and you're in a situation where you're maybe sunsetting a data center, or you're looking for how to support workloads that today you handle on premises with NetApp, you'd like to not have to change your processes and your procedures, you'll learn a lot today, I hope, about how to do that inside of the cloud. So one of the things that our customers tell us that they really like, that I'll highlight for you briefly, is they like our shared responsibility model. So everything up to the point where you're provisioning resources, we take care of. And so what that means is connectivity into the endpoints, we take care of the physical access. In some cases, we manage operating system distributions, things like Amazon Linux. And largely, when we when we select the location of our regions, we're also taking things like connectivity into account. So, you don't have to worry about running your own network or worrying about things like proximity to internet exchange points, that sort of thing. So what does that mean that you're responsible for? It means that you're responsible for everything else. But the nice thing about using a fully baked solution like ONTAP Cloud is that it actually reduces the scope of what you're responsible for even more. And you'll see some evidence of that later today. So when we talk about the use cases for primary storage, one of the things that always comes up, and Yaron is going to talk about this more later, so I'm only going to briefly touch on it. It's what can you do in AWS efficiently that you could also do on-prem efficiently. And that fantastic intellectual property that I was talking about that NetApp has is really the fulcrum for being able to achieve that. So this is one of the most exciting areas in the field of primary storage, where you don't have to worry about copying large data sets, that you can have instantaneous operations, and then how you use that. Obviously, this depends on your workflow, but it's very easy to integrate in most circumstances. So with that, I will hand it over to Yaron. Yaron, take it away.
Thank you very much, Isaiah. Thank you for having me around. It's a really pleasure to do this with you. So good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you are across the globe. I would like to start and kick it off with a quick poll, a quick shorthand. So whether any of you are actually looking to move into an application from on-premise deployment to run on AWS. So the poll is actually open, and I'll give it a few more seconds to just wrap up and see how that looks, and I'll share obviously the results with you. I won't vote here, but I'll share the information with you. So I'll give it 2 more seconds. So I'll have about 50 polls. Okay, I have quite a few more. So it looks like that about 69% of you said yes. And yes, meaning that you are either in the process or actually trying out or physically moving or already have moved an application into the cloud. So that is pretty exciting time. So thank you very much for sharing that information with us here. Obviously no names, it's just a random, anonymous poll. I wanted to introduce you to NetApp a little bit. NetApp is celebrating its 25th year as a data storage vendor this year, and we are definitely, in effect, the largest independent vendor in the storage market. We are widely known for ONTAP, that's our core product, leading enterprise storage operating system. And about 4 years ago, we have started our journey into the cloud, doing the digital transformation and realizing the needs and wants of our various customers, and we understood that there is a very big market for bringing enterprise-grade storage into the cloud and realizing our data fabric vision to be able to access your data easily everywhere. And we're very excited to what we have created right here with AWS, which is ONTAP Cloud, and this is what I'm planning to talk to you about. So what is ONTAP Cloud? Well, I just mentioned this. ONTAP Cloud is a virtual appliance. It's not new in the market, as I mentioned, it's already 3 years in the market. And you can think about it as a virtual appliance, same as any storage appliance that you may have in your office from NetApp, just utilizing AWS compute and storage. So we're using block storage as the underlying layer, and we're using compute, EC2 instances as the compute layer, and we are able to create a virtualized instance working in the AWS, which comes in 2 flavors, either a single node or comes as a highly available pair, which you can give high availability to the applications. I'll talk about architecture later, I promise. What we're trying to achieve by that is actually supporting all the storage efficiencies and all the great features and technology that you already have in a mature storage OS such as ONTAP, and bringing it all into the cloud to be available in either a pay-per-use by the hour license or an annual license. I'll talk about licensing later as well. And everything is wrapped in a very appealing and easy to use UI, but also API calls. So you can either use UI or you can use REST API calls to do everything that you do in the cloud. If you're talking a little bit about architecture, so you could look at the right-hand side. We support all IP protocols from the same instance, again, using compute from an EC2 layer and using EBS as underlying storage. So you can lift and shift your applications very easily, just, move your data into the cloud, repurpose your application just by targeting the access points to another place, and it would run the same way as it ran on your ONTAP device in the office. All the licenses are built in. You understand this is sometimes as ephemeral as something that you'd launch for dev test for 2 or 3 days and then tear down, but sometimes some of our customers are going with us from day one, 24/7. So all of those licenses on the right-hand side are built in, so you can use our NetApp snapshot technology, which is instantaneous, storage efficiency from DDoS to compression. You can use encryption from AWS, such as KMS and other methods of encryption, SnapMirror and SnapVault to move data in and out, FlexClone, which I'll mention later again. And as I said, at the core of things, this is ONTAP. So all the software that NetApp created to manage its on-premise devices are definitely usable here as well. So System Manager, Unified Manager, and On-Command Insights, should you be familiar with any of those, they definitely work the same way with OnCloud as they would work with any other ONTAP. We're utilizing a software called Cloud Manager, which I'll mention in a few seconds, that creates those ONTAP instances in AWS. Why do you want to use ONTAP Cloud? What's the benefit behind it? So first and foremost, it's an enterprise-grade storage device, bringing you very easy data management in the cloud, where it would allow you to launch an instance within minutes, not waiting for very long ordering lead time or whatever. 25 minutes before you actually start migrating your information and data into the hybrid cloud, while being very efficient, using compression, deduplication, and tiering to S3. That's kind of a new feature for us from the last few months. Would definitely reduce your storage footprint. So instead of using, let's say, 10 terabytes, you can actually use 7 terabytes effectively, using a very nice cost saving here. Cover a couple of use cases very easily. First and foremost, we're talking about the production application in the cloud. So here's the customer running the Citrix share farm, creating 2 single nodes, replicating into each other. So in case of failure, you still have another node standing up. That's not the HA, by the way. That's just 2 single nodes. You can share files, you can share databases, you can move snapshots around very easily, and you can DR to another site. And all of that in a very agile way, very short time to market. So 3 instances, let's say if you do them sequentially, that's 1.5 hours, and you don't have to own any hardware here. So that's going to be very easy and very appealing to quite a few of you. On the other hand, a very good example of usage in the cloud is a dev test environment. So when you look at dev testing, this is something that many customers would like to leverage public cloud for. Instance provisioning, you can turn on and off resources, you can start them up and turn them down very easily, and you can always be current. If you have a data set at home and you mirror it into the cloud, every time there is a change, someone does a change back home, your next clone would be fully updated. And then you can take advantage of cost efficiency by Thin Snapshot or FlexClone, which is a killer app in the cloud. FlexClone allows you to create a copy of the volume based on a snapshot, immediate or old one, and then it's going to be in addition to 0 capacity. So there's no need to take any additional capacity on top of that. So this is very appealing as a package for dev testing, and this is a very common use case by our customers. Cloud Manager is the piece that runs the show. You need at least one Cloud Manager, very slick, very intuitive UI design, that would allow you to deploy an ONTAP cloud within minutes, either in single node or an HA pair. And then it allows you to do all the next steps, all the logical next steps. I created an ONTAP cloud, now what? Okay, I want to move data into the cloud. So you can find your own premise based on IP and then drag and drop to create your application. I want to create a volume and serve data from it. So yeah, we allow it to serve and create a volume. I want to grow my data. And all of this with tools that can help you automate your data management, so you won't need to wonder about when do I need to add another disk. So we can take care of this for you if you like, or if you're more old school, we can definitely let you do it on your own. So that's something that you can either choose to do or not to do. So that's definitely fine with us. Whatever works for you, then that's fine. A little bit more about architecture before I hand this over to Lorenzo. This is a single node example, an EC2 instance. We attach two OS images, boot from them, and then add data disks after we set it up. So once this is done, 25 minutes in, you can SSH to it, for example, and see the CLI that you know from NetApp, or you can use any other manageability tool from NetApp to manage that cluster. If we look at an HA pair, for example, we talk about two nodes running in separate availability zones. By the way, we have another flavor of a single AZ, but that's not a real HA. The full-blown HA solution requires multi-availability zones and would help you recuperate from various mishaps that may happen. Usually don't, but may. And if you want to be extra safe and extra protected, an HA pair in the cloud makes lots of sense. In essence, every write to node A would be synchronized to node B and vice versa. So you have duplicate sets of disks. That creates two things which are very important. Zero RPO, no recovery point objective. There's no need for you to go and say, okay, I need to merge my data now because it's written only to one node and not to the other. We know how to fail over and then fail back, which is very important. And the second one is a 60-second RTO, recovery time objective. So if something bad happens, unfortunately, like that, very rare occurrence, then within 60 seconds, any application that used, let's say, one of the access IP, maybe from node A or node B, one of the second and third from the top that you can see, then would be switched over within less than 60 seconds and allow you business continuity, which is all the rage these days. It is being achieved by another micro instance, which is a split brain for us, which monitors both of them and does that handover based on editing route tables inside the VPC. So that's a pretty cool and nifty solution, and we keep improving it. So we added a few extra flavors for it, like having that in a single AZ for those who would like to use such a setup, and we are working on new things on that specific end as well. So do expect some novelties here very, very soon. If we're mentioning then my slide before last about licensing. So if you look at both of those columns, the hourly, the pay-as-you-go, or the BYOL license, which is annual, you see that in most cases, there are actually no difference. And this is very important because both if you take an hourly route or an annual license, you get all the features and support plans. So you can definitely call NetApp. Every one of those instances has a serial number, so you can call NetApp support and ask for support. And if there's a need, we work together with AWS to achieve whatever we need to do. The differences lie within tiering, for example. So the pay-as-you-go has 3 separate tiers of up to 2 terabytes, up to 10 terabytes, and up to 368. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, 368 terabytes of underlying capacity on a single instance. And with cost saving, you can definitely go up and reach the circa 500 terabytes if you definitely need to get to those numbers. So this is definitely plausible. And if I already mentioned all of that, so if you want to learn more about this solution, definitely visit our website. We have a dedicated website for our cloud solution, cloud.netapp.com, and you can get assistance from my team. It's a global team, so use this NG here. You'll get the handout later on. And we have a really cool chat widget that you can use. That's the circle, the blue circle that you see at the top right. By the way, we have that also integrated into Cloud Manager. So if you're starting and then you have some questions, You don't have to go to the website. You can chat with us here. That's a two-way chat. And we're quite responsive, and usually within hours, there is someone there to answer you. So I think I ran my course, and without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Lorenzo Bonina, a cloud architect from EidosMedia in Italy. And Lorenzo, please take it out.
Thank you so much, Ron, and good morning, guys, or good evening if you are in that part of the planet like me. So let me start presenting you EidosMedia. Yeah, I'm a software house founded in 1999 and headquartered in Milan, and today we do have branch offices in US, Australia, UK, Germany, French, Brazil, and China. But who are we? Well, we're global leaders in development of content management software solution for complex environment. We do have several solutions, and our main one and the famous one, which is a digital publishing platform, is called Method. So what Method does, it allows editors to create, search, customize, and deliver any kind of content to almost any destination, and trust me, any destination. It handles all of the phases of a new management process, from initial planning to final delivery to destination from the web, mobile publications, printed newspaper, magazine, social networks. The newest one, which is called Cobalt, is a next generation digital publishing platform, which uses the coupler design to provide the ultra flexible delivery to a lot of digital destination, and of course is mission critical ready. Cobalt has all of the flexibility of an open source solution, but its architecture has solid basis in the most critical enterprises level customer. It's fully based on RESTful APIs, JSON compliant, PSQL, and Mongo on the database layer, and Elastic as a source cluster, and it's all Java written. But who are our customers? EidosMedia solutions are now used by more than 70 news organizations to publish over 600 newspaper titles and keep updated with non-stop breaking news, more than 500 websites every day, which, you know, it's a nice number. But question would be, who are they? As you can see from the slide, our typical clients are the world major news media organization and leading financial institution, serving contents to a constantly expanding range of devices, platform, from the paper to the browser to the mobile apps, push feeds, social, etc. And our platform is the leading cross-media publishing solution in several nations, and we are currently extending our presence to other verticals, such as the government, pharma, and insurance. So the challenges, our project are extremely challenging. You can think in terms of thousands of users for every single customer, working concurrently, connected from everywhere in the country, from laptops, iPhones, iPod, Android devices, and you know, publication time is measured in milliseconds with almost real-time updates of pages and content. And you know, for all of those reasons, high availability, scaling, auto-healing, security, data encryption, you know, all of these things are super important for us, and of course for our customer. All of you guys connected to this webinar I think are working in the industry, and you all know very well what downtime is. And you know, downtime is not an option, not for us and not even for our customer. So we have to provide non-stop operation and business continuity, really, no matter what. So let's talk about what we did a few years ago. So in order to continue innovating at the speed and scale of those, you know, financial and news media industries, we decided to start migrating from a larger set of fully on-premises infrastructure, both virtual and environmental, to cloud-based distributed environment. So why AWS? Well, first, the AWS infrastructure provides us the flexibility to store data in a different region, covering almost every part of the world, minimizing latency and accomplish compliance requirements for our customer. Second, computing capacity on AWS instances type family always match what we need, and on-demand resources provide this scalability to accommodate unpredictable spikes of requests and traffic for dozens of balancer we do have in the cloud. We're not spinning up an entirely new environment or having new stock on standby. We do only pay for the resource that we actually use, eliminating the needs to provision additional infrastructure to match increase of data volumes and computing resources, which is kind of awesome, right? So last but not least, since everything is based on API, we can trigger action based on time and events. And because we do work in the news media industry, we need to being able to respond to event such a storm or an important geopolitical event, which is totally unpredictable. So we can scale up and down our stacks dynamically with no human intervention, which is super cool from any perspective. And of course, one is the pocket, so we can save some bucks. And for sure, the second is always offer a great service to our customer and final consumer. Why NetApp? EidosMedia is a long-time NetApp customer, and almost 99% of our customer and 100% of our managed services stock are NetApp-based. It's a kind of long journey for us since we started years ago from 7 mode to cluster, from single node to HA, from metro cluster to stretch cluster. And so after making the decision to move workloads to the public cloud, we need an enterprise storage solution that will work great, trustable and efficient to better serve our customer, and also which will allow us to move hundreds of terabytes of data easily and efficiently with a controller cutoff and low downtime. So the existing on-premises NetApp storage can be paired to the cloud deployments, ensuring a very smooth transition. And Jaron just mentioned that before, even if you want to use those as DR. Our NetApp deployments are mostly based on HA cluster, which allows to make sure storage endpoints will be always available, even in case of availability zone failure, service disruption, or any other underlying hardware issue, such an hypervisor problem at the AWS level. Another benefit is that EM developers and DevOps no longer need to wait days or even weeks for new hardware to be deployed on premises, and they can, test application stacks really a matter of minutes. It's just a matter of should deploy, wait a few minutes, connect, create, and run. I think it's very important mentioning here is that ONTAP is Docker container ready, and persistent volumes and claims can be configured to work with Kubernetes, for example, using Trident, and let you orchestrate storage at scale, which I do strongly believe is very important. We do, as EidosMedia, we do also act as a NetApp consultant, advising and supporting our customer during the implementation process of our application. And we do offer the choice to set up their own cloud environment, leverage our consulting service, or even access Method or Cobalt in a full SaaS model, which let the customer concentrate on the business, which is important, and while we take care of everything is working at full performance speed under the hood. Sorry, results benefit. As I've already said before, moving data to the cloud is using ONTAP is super easy, since it's just a matter of pair the cluster, join the peer, share the SVMs, and then create a new SNAP-middle relationship. You can do that using your existing on-prem storages as a source and cloud deployments as the destination, but you can do back and forth at any time. So it's super cool. You can really move data really easy. And connection speed, of course, is an important piece, but you can set up a dedicated fiber MPLS using AWS Direct Connect, and your transfer will be super fast. And Direct Connect is available almost everywhere, so use it. Another important thing is that we leverage the elasticity and cost efficiency of the cloud for rapid development of new feature, as I was mentioning before, and services using ONTAP Flex Clone. So we can instantaneously deploy hundreds of dev test environments of cloned volumes on AWS, which in our experience really dramatically accelerate the application and feature deployment. Of course, just something that Jaron just mentioned before is NAV vault, deduplication, compression, all of those key features, all of those features are really important for us, and something that we would like to keep having even in the cloud. this concludes my the beginning of this introduction. So we're now going to interact to the ONTAP Cloud Manager to actually deploy a new stack, which is going to be a new stack of ONTAP located in US. So let's begin with this. So we're now going to create some keepers for those so we can save it and use it later. So I'm going to create one for the nodes and the other one for the mediator, and I will save this in the output for a PEM file. Oh, now we're going to create a KMS key, and I will copy and I create an alias for that. And I will double my shell, and I will use the Common Cloud Manager interaction UI for actually create the stack. We'll put a name, add the tag on it, and set a password that will be Lorenzo123. Now I'll select the multiple availability zone, which is just a click on it, and then I will select the region, which is ARA, and then I will select the automatically generated security groups, and then I will put the node 1 in 1A using that subnet. Node 2 is going to be in 1B, and then the mediator is going to be in C. So next, click on continue. I can select the key which I previously created before, but because I want to later log in inside, I would rather go for a password in this case. But I will select the key which I created before for the mediator. So I will select that. And it's important also to use the selection for the connection method. Must be able to serve. We're going to use a public IP, even if I do suggest an app gateway for the production environment or a proxy even. So now we're going to select the floating IP that John was mentioning before. Those must not belong to the SID block, and those are, let's say, fake in some way, and we will control using the routing tables. Now we'll select the routing tables where our clients will live later. I will create the box later. So let's click on continue. Now we're going to select the encryption. So you can connect an external key management server. So if you already have one in your corporate, or you can even use the embedded KMS features. So now I will use that, and I will select the ONTAP key, which I created before. Now, no license. No, I don't have a bring your own license right now, so I will start that. Then we do have a set pre-configured package. It's important to select the right machine type as well, instance type, sorry, and as well as the aggregate. So we can choose between GP2, SSD, and ST1. Of course, it's important why we use GP2 to make sure the size of those it's fine in terms of throughput capacity because those are bustable volume. Let's go to let's check for the M4 2x large instance, and even let's check the amount of throughput and the bandwidth that we do have against, let's say, against the EBS. So this is the dedicated bandwidth. So make sure you have the right value here and select the instance which is correct for you. If you need any help, just show any support of NetApp. In this case, we're using an 832 with J1G. So let's select this, or let's select. I don't know. Let's okay. Let's do this one. Okay, let's select this. Okay, now time to put inside the NetApp support account ID. So for the auto support and all of those features, let's skip this for now. This part actually lets you create a new volume from here, but we're gonna interact with the NetApp storage later. So let's click I understand, and make sure we put all of the right information in here. Seems we're good. We have 8 terabytes, so it's going to be 3K UPS baseline, no burst, good aggregate, and we're going to build some volumes on it. And the encryption, which is important, our customer always requests encryption. So we are using KMS, rotating service, we have our keys, and pretty good. Let's click I understand, and go. So this is the API request, so you can post this and use this with an automation tool such as Ansible, Puppet, or Chef, or whatever you please. So you can post it, and then you will avoid to fill up this form. So we are initializing what is going on right now. So we're using this user, which is Michael Jordan, not me for sure, and we're gonna use this access key, which is aka blah blah blah, and then this is configured in AWS, and the cloud manager is interacting using the API to actually go into AWS and create some CloudFormation templates. As you can see here, we do have connectivity, which is the very first phase. Then system will start creating this connectivity, making sure all of the form that we fill up before is okay, and then we will go ahead deploying the stack. when at some point you guys will find the ONTAP HA cluster ready to use, and you can directly SSH into and start having some fun building volumes, setting your new storage, which has been deployed in a very, very, very short time. You can use the Cloud Manager to even upgrade these to newer release, send out support, check these. Oh, let's now do something else. So let's create a keeper for our machine, which is going to be the machine that we will use later for doing some testing. So I created this, and I will chmod in that case. All right, and let's now create a security group, and then select the VPC with the variable that I said before. And then it's time to add some rules on it, and I'm gonna do something that you should not do, which is open everything from EC0000, and I'm gonna do this for egress and egress. So don't try it on this, or at least don't try it. And then let's describe the subnets. So we're gonna make sure we are in the right subnets, and we're gonna use that later. So the subnets which was configured in the routing table before is this one. So it's important that we put the machine within these subnets. So let's save it into a very quick variable. Let's do it like this. All right. And now time to run an instance. I'm going to spin up a Red Hat instance, and I'm going to select this type. The key name is going to be, I don't remember this, it's going to be, all right, this one. And then the security group is in a variable, and I'm going to associate an external IP because I do not have any VPN from here, and the MEI is from Red Hat. Machine is in a pending state, so it's going to become healthy very quickly. So let's update in this. Okay, so this is filter running. Machine will surely come up in a while. Meantime, is initializing. All right. Oh, I forgot to tag it. I'm sorry. This is something that, this is my bad. I will tag it as a test. Cool. Now let's grab the IP, which is an ephemeral IPv4. As I said, it's just because I do not have any other, any VPN in here. So I will SSH into using SSH user, EC2 user, I'm sorry, and then it's now time to do something else. I will open another shell, and I will update this, adding the iSCSI multipart and the initializer. All right, so let's copy that over and then copy this one again. So we're gonna open two shell, and from inside one of these, we're gonna let's save the initializer name. We're gonna select the connect later to the ONTAP. Oh, now the mediator is live. Oh, so let's check the mediator is live. Then in a while, you will see event nodes coming up. It's just a matter of wait sometimes while the deploy is going on. You can check these using timeline, so you can actually go in there and look at the status. So you know you can see all of this. So you can check what's going on, and you can even monitor, and you can even check using the API. So you can put some dependency on your configuration of the automation tool to make sure start doing some action only when it becomes alive or healthy. So you can even configure multiple tenants, and have ground permission for a tenant. You can select the LDAP authentication. So you're gonna log in instead of logging with your own user. You're gonna use the LDAP, which may be part of the copyright, and all of those things. Let's refresh it, and boom, the ONTAP is live. Oh, this is another interesting feature, but I'm not going to explain it right now. And now let's grab the cluster manager IP, which is an ephemeral IP. So it's an IP which actually doesn't exist. It's just located in configured in the in the routing table. Let's connect to it. I have the password, Lorenzo, and then let's check the status of this, and it's going to be all right. Show. Nope. Status show. All right. Oops. Okay, so let's go ahead in creating something. I'm going to create first an export policy, which is going to be a test policy on this SVM, and I will create some rule on it, and I will do another bad things. I'm going to open to everybody as I did for the security group. Don't try this at home. And I will just, I will add all of the permission, which it's just a test, so I will do this at least once, and I will set up any protocol, and then I will set no and I will set up the super user, and oops, All right. Now let's create some volume, which is going to be NFS, and I will put the aggregate 1, and the size will be 20G. And I will state online, and policy will be test, and I'm going to do this read-write policy. Okay, not really matter right now. Oh, okay, and space is going to be none, security style, and very important, the junction path. Job is queued, so time to go on. Oh, here we go. We do have the test NFS pretty quickly, and then now let's create some iSCSI volume, which is better. Let's create this. It's gonna be no. Let's change it. All right, I'm gonna copy for before. It doesn't really matter. We can use the authenticator, and then here we go. Now let's create the LAN, and it's gonna be 15 GB type Linux and test SCSI, and now we'll put another test SCSI. Oh, oops, sorry, just all right. Cool. And then I will create the I group, and I will pass the initializer name that I copied before, the cap before. So I will copy it into this. Cool. Oh, no. Sorry. Okay. Good. Now let's map these I group to the LANs that we created before. And it's going to be LAN ID 1 because it's the only one. And now time to select the iSCSI IP. As you know, we do have 2 of those, and let's discovering those. I will put also these because it's important. It's just a parameter. Oh, we just discovered this, and now let's log in inside. Boom. We log in inside, and then let's check the session. Oh, you guys may not see this, but yeah, it's super cool. We connected all of those are attached, and now it's time to configure some multipath on it, because our F disk is, it's showing all those 2 volumes, which is not that good. So let's doing something. Let's store the multipath daemon on. Sorry, I didn't start before, and then list it. But we do not have any configuration, so I've already prepared some configuration, and I will just paste it on it. I'm sorry, doing some messing here. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, I just pasted this, which I created before. I gotta be frankly, but I think it's gonna be working very fine. I forgot a piece. All right. Now time to reload. And then if we do multipath LL, we're gonna see that the multipath is finally configured. We're gonna use AWS for that. And the only problem is that I don't really like this M path, so I'm gonna copy that and put some alias. I will do this out of this screen, and I will add my multipath with test SCSI. It's gonna be round robin. Let's reload this, and boom, finally we do have this. Now time for the F disk. As you can see now, it's listed as DevOps test SCSI, and we can just PV create and VG create. We're gonna build an LVM volume on the top of it, and then create the LVM. We're gonna be 100% free. This, boom, fine. And then let's format. I do rather prefer XFS, but this is a 6, so I'm not installing that. So, sorry. Right. Now let's wait 1 second for our journal, and then okay. Now I'm gonna find the UUID, and then I'm gonna put this in my laptop and mount it. Boom! It's finally here and it's connected. Time for the NFS. Way more easy. Let's put some yes, the ephemera here. Sorry, the floating in here, and just the mount. We're gonna use TCP for this, and select the test NFS. Our export policy is open to everybody, and boom, they're finally here, both of them. Now I'm gonna do something which I do believe is one of the most important things. I will write some file on it. Just be aware, this is just a super easy setup. So it's not gonna be performance is not gonna be like your production super setup. It's gonna be way better on your setup, and because you have time to tune it. And I'm gonna write some data on it on all of those. And now I'm gonna do something which I do believe is important, so show you what actually happens. So if we select our VPC, which is VPC for QA, and we select our routing table, if you go down in the routing, you will see that all of those floating IP are actually associated with the machine and the interface. Sorry. So what is going on later? So when I will shut down the primary ONTAP, which is now acting as primary, all of those floating IP will move from that to the other instance, which is already there. So it's going to be 60-second time for floating the NFS, while the multipath daemon is going to handle this dynamically with no interruption at all. Just because it's a way better protocol. Let me add this personal But now let's ping this ephemeral IP. Sorry, this floating IP. Keep saying ephemeral instead of anyway. And then let's check the multiparty. Okay, both are running active. Sorry, and status active. The other one is enabled. And then I'm gonna do this. Boom. I'm going to stop the box, and I'm going to then check later what is going on in this port. And I will make sure the multipart it's going to realize this. And as you can see, one part is now active faulty. And if I do df in here, you will see that the NFS, which is mounted, is going to hang me on because of the fact that the floating IP didn't change yet. But then the mediator, you see a black hole in there, meaning that it's not working anymore because AWS realized the fact that the machine failed. So you will see now it's active because we failed. The mediator will take care of failed to the other instance. Let me tell you this, I think this is very cool. And if we do df right now, you will see that again, we can access our data, and the failure, even if it's an availability zone failure or an underlying failure, was greatly handled by the NetApp storage. And we can keep reading and writing files, and the application, of course, you realize that, but it's going to be a very, very short time while we move the floating IP from one side to the other side. And I will again now set inside, and I will do something else. I will write some other file in here. This is NFS. So we have a solution for both iSCSI and NFS, and we were using this since quite a long time, and really it's something that is pretty cool for moving the application into the cloud. This concludes my very quick demo editing introduction about who we are and what we did and why we love AWS and NetApp, and thank you so much for staying with me and with all the other guys which joined me today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. That was very enlightening. Appreciate all the effort that you put into this.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. And what I would like to do is have another poll before we switch to the questions. So we earlier asked you about, are you in the process of thinking of moving some kind of an application into AWS? And we're trying, or slightly more curious, because ONTAP Cloud can. So let me take this one down. And when you do move to the cloud, what would you consider your criteria for success? So obviously timeline is critical, budget is even more so, but the integration between the pieces is pretty crucial as well. So I'm kind of wondering about that, and if you can share a little bit of more information about that. And there's a tight fight here, and I'll close the polling in a second. But it looks like that integration is winning by a little bit more than a nose, but it's winning a little bit over than budget. And obviously timeline is slightly less critical at this stage. So it's 47 for integration and 30 for budget. And I really thank you for participating in that. And I think that it's time for a Q&A, if I recall correctly. So
awesome. We've got some great questions. We probably have, I would say, at least 20 questions, and we could spend a half an hour on each one for. But I want to cherry pick a couple of them. One of the first questions that I want to address is for you, Lorenzo, and totally would like to know, in your infrastructure, how many instances do you guys have deployed that are ONTAP Cloud, if you're willing to share?
This question is about how many ONTAP storages we do have as a cluster per all of those things, or how many clients actually connect to the storage?
The question, I think, is really about the infrastructure component, about ONTAP Cloud. about how many clusters you guys are?
Yeah, we do have several clusters. I would say more than 10 and less than 20. And I will say that also about the clients, we do have several machines, more than 25 for each of these NetApp, which actually connect and read and write data. We are only based on Linux, so we do not use CIFS at all. We just use iSCSI and NFS, and we use Multiparty daemon, and almost all of the instances are HA, but we still do have some single node instances, which we didn't migrate yet. That's it. Of course, we do have several aggregates. So we do, for each of these NetApp storage, we do have several aggregates, and we love to mix aggregates, like some particular volumes are located into an aggregate which is based on ST1, while some other which needs more performance are located into the GP2 aggregate. I hope this answered the question.
Awesome. This is actually, the point that you can have different types of media is a great lead-in for Randy's question, which is, could we talk a little bit about Fabric Pool? And so, Yaron, I think this is a great question for you. Do you want to explain what Fabric Pool is and how NetApp customers can use it in ONTAP clouds?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question, and I see this pop up at least twice in the questions here. So, as I mentioned, ONTAP Cloud uses EBS. The reason for using EBS is ONTAP Cloud is a virtual appliance. It uses disks in a shelf, in analogy, right? So we use EBS volumes as the analogy of a disk in a shelf. So that's going to be very easy to understand. Now, S3 is object storage, and it's very interesting because of its cost effectiveness and structure. And what we're trying to do, and Fabric Pool actually caters to that, is if you have an EBS, you can put all your hot data, your most used data in EBS, while clearing off most or all, even in cases of DR, your cold data into S3 directly. So if you set up an ONTAP Cloud for DR, that's a very common use case, and you do a DR site in ONTAP Cloud, you'd use very little EBS, and most of the data would actually be funneled off as cold data into S3 right away. Whenever you need this and you start the DR and you start reaching out into those snapshots, digging into them, and finding whatever you need, the data would be heated up at a very, very low cost in time, not cost, but a time component here, and it would be heated up and brought into the EBS. So this is what Fabric Pool does for you. It has a hot and cold tier. Didn't have a slide for that, and maybe that's a shame, but hey, that's an opportunity to do another webinar, so we can definitely do that.
Okay, great. So I would say that, tiering is probably one of those things that people initially are like, well, I don't know if I would want to do that because I don't know what my cold data set is. But when they get into it and they realize that the solution is going to determine the cold data set, and that retrievals from S3, because you're already in the cloud, are really quick, it becomes a really viable option for customers. And I want to segue to Robert's question about capacity limits. I think it's the kind of thing that people see on paper one figure and then they experience something else when they try things in reality. Could you talk about sort of the different scopes of capacity and how Fabric Pool plays into that?
So that's kind of a complex question. Fabric Pool plays into the realization of having hot and cold tiers in a very easy way. We have hot and cold data, and that's a fact. Every one of us, if you have 10 terabytes, you have usually like 1 or 2 terabytes, or even 5 or 6 terabytes of readily accessible data, while there is some data which is mostly for archival or slightly older or slightly colder. And that definitely happens. And the idea behind Fabric Pool that allows you to do that funneling, Fabric Pool has two, let's call them tastes. One taste is setting up a snapshot policy for Fabric Pool that allows you to funnel any or all of the snapshots immediately into S3. That's really useful in the case of VR. But let's say that you are running file services. We see that 47, 49% of the people actually said that, you know, they're doing file services in the cloud. You can set up a policy to say my regular data, my ongoing data is always on EBS, but you know what, snapshots, where the backups are, I don't need them at any time. I need them only when I need them, only when, you know, when God forbid something bad happens. So I can say that after you get to the 50% of the capacity tier of EBS, take all my snapshots and move them away to a core tier, because I don't need them every day. And I would say that would make perfect sense for quite a few of us who are dealing with storage on a day-to-day basis.
Got it. Okay, good, awesome. Matthew asks about Glacier, so you just answered him. You know, right now the tiering is just to S3. Just to touch on that for a second, for primary storage, if you'll remember at the beginning, I said, you know, if it was on tape before, Glacier is a great place for it. Primary storage tiering to Glacier, I would say kind of a dubious approach to things if somebody tried to do that. Even with the expedited retrieval, you're still talking about having to kind of trick all of the different layers of software and hardware in between the file access and getting it out of Glacier into waiting for that. So the semantics of Glacier don't lend itself well to that. But if you were going to archive something using something like SnapVault, maybe Yaron, you can talk about what the roadmap for ONTAP Cloud looks like for customers. I know it's not something that's supported today. Would you feel comfortable sharing with customers what the future might bring?
So I won't share about the future, but I would say now that one of the things that I really like about what AWS did recently is launching the SC1 drive. So that's a block device that can allow you to do anything that you do with NetApp today and use all the feature set at the price range of S3, but still staying on block devices. And this is something that I really, really like and appreciate, of course, being a user here. So I just wanted to recap on that because this was kind of a good segue. But in terms of roadmap, we are building additional features into the mix. So we support a set of about 12 to 15 instances today. We're adding more of the instances. We are supporting more accessibility features. We are adding support for the enhanced networking to take utilization to the maximum with the 10 gigabit Ethernet, which are pretty much all the rage these days. We have another feature. It's not a feature, actually. It's a SaaS offering called Cloud Sync that also runs on AWS SaaS marketplace in this specific case, that allows you to move data back and forth. And maybe, you know what, if you have an ONTAP Cloud for secondary copy, you can use Cloud Sync for a tertiary copy. Cloud Sync does a synchronization based on file level. So it's both a synchronization and a transformation. It can take data from a volume in NFS and put it in an S3 bucket on a file, have two data sets live. And if you want to put, let's say, if you have another process running on S3, you can run a listener on a bucket and then funnel data back into ONTAP Cloud very easily just by doing the sync. And it's very cost effective. We're using the we're using the new charging methodologies from the SaaS marketplace, so it's not even by capacity, it's just by compute alone. So very affordable, as I mentioned.
That's a great point. So one of the, especially considering how much people cared about integration, right? The native integration with AWS services is generally around other AWS services. So if you wanted to do something that knows how to talk to S3, you would want to be able to fill that gap between what you've got on an NFS volume or on a SIF share with that other service that's going to be looking for it inside of S3. I want to brag about you guys for a second. That that Data Fabric Cloud Sync is actually, it uses API Gateway and Lambda. I mean, it is really a modern thing. And for people who think about, oh, NetApp, it's like a 25-year-old company. It's stodgy or curmudgeony. This is proof that NetApp is capable of reinventing itself and fully committed to a cloud-friendly future. The biggest surprise for me was how fast you guys developed that. I think we rarely get a chance to talk about that, but you're not just a storage appliance vendor. You've also been AWS customers, and that helps you see things from the perspective of AWS customers when you're developing products. We want to thank each of you very much for attending. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out directly. Thank you very much.